Hey peeps, welcome back to the newest episode of Just Ask the G.O.A.T with yours truly, Neira the G.O.A.T. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. If you're a returning guest, what's down, cousin? I'm so happy that you're back. Let's get into this week's episode. Hey peeps, welcome back to the Just Ask the G.O.A.T podcast featuring your host, me, Neira, aka Neira the G.O.A.T, also known as your favorite manifesting cousin. So as you guys know, we're going over the Artist's Way, and week 2's lesson is about recovering your sense of safety. How many of you actually grew up in a household that somebody encouraged your creativity? If you did, brava to your parents and everybody that encouraged you. If you're like me, you grew up in a household where your creativity was just something that you did. I remember getting ready to graduate high school and telling my mom that I wanted to go into performing arts when I went to college, and she was like, you need to pick something more practical. So I ended up going into biology, completely failed my first semester. And when I think back on it, it's like, how could I ever really have thought that I was going to become a doctor? No shade to doctors, but I've been in talented drama since I was in the 6th grade, like, be for real. And so for many of us, we grow up in households and environments where our creativity isn't necessarily encouraged, and for sure, it is not the thing that is going to pay your light bill. And so if you have ever felt like this is the episode for you. A lot of the times whenever you grow up in households, whenever you don't have parents or anyone encouraging your creativity, it can sometimes cause you to retreat a little bit and not take your art as serious as you could possibly take it. I mean, let's face it, there is this trope of the starving artist. And so when it comes to painting, writing, not many people know anyone that has made a viable living from their creativity. And so when you're really young, you get all of this negative messaging about how you can't make money being an artist, or that's not a real career path, or you need to pick something more practical. And what happens is your life begins to kind of diminish over time. And all of your artistic ways and your creativity, you just kind of push to the side. And when that happens, Julia Cameron describes it as you creating your shadow artist. A shadow artist is an artist that loves art but doesn't claim it. The funny thing about a shadow artist is they're hella creative. They probably have all of these passions and they're ignited by artwork of others. A lot of the times they even marry or get into relationships with other creatives who've actually taken the steps to go forth and be creative. Julia uses a couple of different examples in the book about how there are artists who end up marrying people that are not working or operating in their creativity, and so they might find jobs that are a little less fulfilling. They watch others secretly live out the life that they want, and a lot of the times they find themselves adjacent to the career that they actually want to do. And so a painter might actually become a gallery director or an art curator instead of actually just making the artwork themselves. Shadow artists don't lack talent. They lack giving themselves the permission to actually pursue their art. And like I said, a lot of the times it comes from the messaging that we were given as children. If we are having an internal conflict, especially as children, of our own personal fears along with the negative messaging that has been imparted into us by our parents or our environment, then that makes it very difficult to decide that your art is actually worth taking the chance in doing. And so a lot of us just push it to the side, and before you know it, we're out living lives that we actually aren't really even fulfilled in. It's because of this negative messaging and programming that we create a negative belief system around what our art can do and can be for us. And so we start thinking things like, it'll never pay my bills. There's no way I'll be able to travel to all the places I want to go, that I'll be able to take care of my children. And before you know it, this inherent fear has become a deep-seated belief, and it's carried out in everything that you do. Unfortunately, some of us don't even quit our dreams. We're just simply trained right up out of them. Shadow artists tend to judge themselves way more harshly than the world ever could. They beat themselves up for all of the art that they never put out, the dreams that they never pursued, and all that does is further reinforce the fear that they have about creating art for themselves. The reason a person becomes a shadow artist anyway is because they had no nurturing. If you did not have anyone that was there to nurture you, to speak life into your creativity, as an adult, you have to learn how to do it yourself. And I want you to understand that if you were a child and you did not have anybody speaking into your artistic abilities, if you did not have anybody speaking life into your creativity, baby, you're not alone. Most people don't. Not everybody could grow up with parents like Beyonce. And so at some point, if you have a deep desire because you actually like art, you want to create some sort of art, and that could be anything. You can be a photographer, a painter, a violinist. But if there's something that you have a deep passion for, you'll never be able to actually cultivate your artistry if you don't first know how to nurture yourself. And that's something that I've had to teach myself along the way too. People tell me all the time, oh, you just get in front of the camera and you talk and it's just so easy for you. But nobody understands the amount of negative deprogramming that I have had to do on myself and that I continue to do on myself so that I'm able to show up in my creativity and in my business. In order to move past the shadows and into the light, you have to take yourself seriously as a creative. Because if you don't take yourself seriously, who the fuck will? It takes gentle and deliberate effort to nurture your inner artist. And creativity is really about play, but unfortunately for a lot of shadow artists, it takes work for them to allow themselves to feel free to play, to laugh. I really think that even in the midst of all of the negative programming I had around my creativity, the one thing that I've never lost a grip on is my ability to be playful. I am silly, I am whimsy, I dilly-dally. My aunt and I were just having a conversation in the car about this earlier today. I love to dilly-dally. And when I think about being 37 and the amount of dilly and dally I do on a weekly basis, and I think back onto my childhood and how I was so like fascinated. I remember being in pre-K and we used to go and stick our hands through the fence on the playground and pick blackberries that we thought could have been poisonous. I don't even know, but we used to pick them and we used to eat them. And I used to catch dragonflies as a little girl and put them in a jar. And I just get so fascinated by nature, by little whimsical things and fairies. I find myself, even when I take myself on artist dates, like I love antique shops and I will just spend time looking at everything. If I'm in the grocery store and I have nowhere to go, I will spend the time, read the ingredients. That is me. Like I enjoy my leisure. And also I'm silly as hell. If you ask any of my friends, if you've seen any of my content prior to this, you know I play all day. I play all day. And I laugh. I don't take myself too seriously. Last week I posted a podcast with a piece of cracked pepper in my teeth. It's just another video, you know? And I have so many other videos. And if a person has time, and here's the thing, here's how you could tell that a person is operating in their shadow artist. And this is so funny how this was a segue into that. But this is how I look at it. It takes a certain level of courage to operate in your creativity, especially when it comes to social media, because you're kind of putting yourself out there in front of the world where anyone from anywhere can critique you. And trust me, they will. They definitely will. But here's the thing. I am doing something that most people don't have the courage to do. And every time I get up and I try again, regardless of how imperfect it may look, how the lighting might have sucked, or I had cracked pepper in my teeth, or my hair wasn't retwisted, or whatever the imperfection is, I never get so caught up in thinking about all of those things because I know what it feels like to get into my head so much that I don't do anything. You know, I think somewhere in business they call it analysis paralysis, when you're like overthinking so much that nothing gets done. I realized a long time ago, it's important to just get it out there, even if it's wrong. You can go back and fix it later. But as an artist, it's vital for you to show up for yourself and be consistent and deliberate in how you show up for yourself, because that's what builds your confidence. That's what allows you to build your consistency in your artistry. And so I think that a person is operating out of their shadow artist when they can sit back and they're the person on the other side of the screen picking out all of the flaws, picking out, well, why did she decide to wear that outfit? Does she have lipstick on her cheek? Why is this like that? Why is that? And then you go to their page and they don't even have a profile picture. Or you go to their page and they're out of shape, or their hair is a mess, or they're laying on an air mattress that's pissy. I don't know. But the point is, when you take the step to put yourself out there, you're already doing better than 90% of people. Because most people are living as a shadow artist. Most people are living lives that they don't want to live. Most people are living in the shadows of the people around them. Most people do not have the courage to just step out and put themselves out there. And I'm not saying this even to judge those people, but what I'm saying is, if you ever find yourself feeling jealous or envy, or saying those little snarky remarks about what other people are doing with their time, or what other people are doing with their artistry or their creativity, that's a prime sign that you are a shadow artist yourself. Because when you are working in your artistry, and when you're working in your creativity, you don't give a fuck about what anybody else is doing. You're so busy worrying about how to better yourself, how to keep on showing up, how to get better at certain skills. You don't have time to worry about what the next person is doing. What the young kids say, clock that. Clock that. If you ever find yourself worrying so much about what somebody else is doing, you're more than likely operating from out of your shadow artist, and you should consider getting some help. A lot of times what hinders creatives, if they're just getting into this journey, is they judge their artistic ability too soon. And so let's say, for instance, I'm a writer. I can look at my scripts or look at things that I've put out and compare it to Issa Rae or anybody else who's been in the game a lot longer than me. And you can become so hypercritical of yourself, and it's like, come on baby, you're not even comparing apples to apples. Sometimes we're way too judgmental at the beginning of our creative journeys rather than just working on being consistent at the journey. Understand, you're your only competition ever. You're never in competition with anybody else. You are just trying to outdo the last thing that you put out. That's it. That's all. That's how I stay focused. I don't worry about what's happening on the left or right of me. I just worry about Neira and what Neira has to do. In recovering your creative blocks, it's important for you to know that you gotta go slow. I mean, what are we rushing to? You know, it's like sometimes we're rushing to go nowhere. And it's okay to move gently and to move slowly through the process to become better. Mistakes are necessary. Mistakes are a part of the journey. Stumbles are normal, and we're always looking for progress and not perfection, because nobody is perfect. There's always room for improvement, always. Remember, as you're trying to recover, being a better artist, you kind of have to be okay with being a shitty one first. Understanding that the first sculpture you ever make might look like shit in comparison to the sculptures you make 6 years from now. The first song that you put out might sound trash, like the audio might be off. The first video you edit, you might be kind of choppy with it. This is all a part of the learning process. Something that I encourage my children, and in encouraging my children, I have to also encourage myself, like, nobody is perfect at doing something for the first time. No one is perfect at doing something for the 30th time. You do your best to get better every time you show up for yourself. You give yourself grace in the interim of all of that. The number one enemy of creatives are our core beliefs. And a lot of times our core beliefs, like I said, come from the environments that we grow up in, the people we surround ourselves with. And you know, this gets kind of into my woo-woo. If you've been following me for a while, you know before the Just Ask the G.O.A.T podcast, I had Manifest with Me. And what I've learned over the years about the subconscious mind is Your subconscious mind just picks up information. It doesn't know the difference between what's right and what's wrong, what's real and what's fake. It just accepts information. And unfortunately, when we're children, we are not conscious that our subconscious mind is always taking in information. And so there's a lot of negative programming that happens between birth and the age of 7 that we accumulate through the people around us and through our environment. And before we know it, we have taken on the core beliefs, which are oftentimes the negative projections of others. The main enemy for an artist are their negative belief systems. And some of the negative beliefs that we have as creatives could sound something like this. Everyone will hate me. I can't post that. People will look at me weird. I don't have enough good enough ideas. If I curse too much, I'll upset my mom or my dad. I'll never make any real money from doing this. I don't want to have to enjoy my success alone. The interesting thing about these beliefs are none of them have to be true if we just choose not to believe them. And Julia suggests that we go and we replace any of those negative beliefs with positive affirmations. And like I mentioned, if you've been following me on my podcast, you know that before my podcast was Just Ask the GOAT, it was Manifest with Me. And so subconscious reprogramming is my jam. Neuroscience is my jam. Like I mentioned, I was having some trouble identifying myself as a writer, and I really could not understand why. And the more and more I dug into that, it was simply because of the money thing. I wanted to have more viable proof that I could make a full-time living off of being an independent creative and writer. And because I was not seeing that consistently, because I definitely was seeing it, I was not seeing it consistently, I realized that, oh my gosh, this is my creative block. But as I've been putting out more podcasts and analyzing my YouTube channel, I've realized I have done so much, and there's absolutely no way that I should not be identifying myself with my creativity when that's literally all I do. All I do is yap and write. Yap and write and read. Yap, write, and read. That's Neira. And it comes off in many different ways, through the outline of creating a podcast, or the email marketing that I do, the consulting I do with other businesses. And the more I really thought about it, I was like, Neira, you're standing in your own way. And the money that you're looking for is right on the other side of you getting out of your own way. And so I want to share that with you guys. Really sit down and think about and take inventory of why it's so hard for you to identify with who you are as a creative and why you're not acting that out in your life. And then create the opposite of that. Create the positive affirmation for that. And so I created an entire list because I redo my affirmations. It's like nightly affirmations / sleep hypnosis, and I redo those audios once a month. And one of my affirmations that I say to myself is, my writing and my creativity is my currency. My writing and my creativity affords me the lifestyle that I want to have. My writing and my creativity allows me to be able to travel internationally with my family and my friends. And these are the things that I am constantly listening to. So when I'm not listening to any of my cool playlists, if y'all follow me on social media, you know I got them. But when I'm not listening to my playlist, and before I go to bed at night, I make sure to put those affirmations on, and I drown my subconscious mind as I drift off into sleep, because I understand that it is through the reprogramming of your mind that you get the life that you're actually looking for. And also in the book, Julia offers up some creative affirmations, so I would like to share some of my favorite ones that I highlighted from the last time I did this. I'll go with number 2, and if you haven't already, you should get you a copy of The Artist's Way. It's available on Amazon, it's available on the TikTok shop. Hell, you might even be able to get your library to get it for you. And so number 2, it says, my dreams come from God, and God has the power to accomplish them. And as we talked about in week 1, she refers to God as the ultimate creator of all things. And so if we had to replace the word God with creator, my dreams come from the creator, and the creator has the power to accomplish them. So it's understanding that Our creativity comes from the creator of all things. It comes from a power that's so much greater than us. And if we believe that there is a great creator and a power that created all things, including us, and that power works within us, then of course our dreams will get accomplished. Duh. Another one that I liked was, through the use of my creativity, I serve God. And the reason I really like that one, again, if you've been following me, y'all know I come from Southern Baptist. So along with some of the negative programming from my family, I have a lot of religious trauma and negative black church idioms that I have to get over too. And even in my relationship with God and what that looks like for my creativity. And so through the use of my creativity, I serve God. I think sometimes in churches, people will try to make it seem like you choosing to operate in your creativity comes from an egotistical point of view. And because it could be one of those creative careers that could either make you no money at all, or it can make you a lot of money. And because people have negative relationships with their idea about money and people who have it, they assume that because you want to operate in your creativity that it comes from a place of ego. But I personally believe that our creativity does come from God, and it's God's way of expressing God's self through us. And it would just be a shame for us to have a desire that we don't act on, a desire that comes from God that we don't act out. So that's my tidbit on it. But also that has come from a lot of deprogramming, decentering, and reteaching myself a lot of things. So I hope that helped somebody. Hope that freed somebody like it once freed me. So yeah, that is this week's lesson from The Artist's Way, recovering a sense of safety. There are additional writing prompts at the end. I hope that you guys have continued to do your morning pages and that you have taken yourself on your artist date. I will be going on my artist date this week. It's French Quarter Fest in New Orleans, and I'm super excited. And so I will be taking my artist date in the quarter. But you guys go forth, be great. Always remember, what you're seeking is seeking you too. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and get your copy of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I look forward to chatting with you next week. Hey peeps, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you were able to find a jewel that you can keep with you every day, or put it in your back pocket for a later date. If there are any topics that you'd like for me to discuss on the podcast, please feel free to shoot me an email to neirathegoat@gmail.com. Remember to like this episode, share it with a friend, leave a comment, give it a rating, whatever floats your boat. Go forth, be great. Always remember, what you're seeking is seeking you too, and everything that you need is already within you. So go within.